Narrative voice is always an important aspect of a text, as it has an obvious effect on the way in which we engage with the characters, as well as how much we learn of them. The construction of this text with the non-linear narrative structure, as well as the juxtaposed storylines, could not have been possible in the first person. Bali Rai uses third-person language. The effect keeps the reader somewhat distanced from the characters in the text. This distance and perspective, however, is necessary in order to be able to take in all of the action that is going on. Bali Rai has chosen to write as an omniscient observer, in that we are provided insight into what multiple characters are seeing, thinking, and feeling all at once. We become all-knowing readers of the action. This somewhat counteracts the logistics of trying to get our head around the action of so many characters, as we are able to get real insight into them when we do see them. Bali Rai has also chosen a rather broad ensemble character set to explore, rather than limiting his narrative to 2 or 3 characters. In doing so, he is able to explore a variety of issues relevant to the Punjabi people, as well as providing a multifaceted portrait of life in India at the time. This text serves to provide insight into the Indian perspective of life. Bali Rai deliberately restricts the perspective of the text with the use of his characters and the way the narratives interweave to provide a multifaceted portrayal of Indian life. Whilst we see glimpses of the British in the text, ultimately they are included to serve the function of driving the narrative forward rather than providing their perspective. Their inclusion is a narrative device employed by Bali Rai. Certainly they are not portrayed in a positive light throughout the scenes where we do see them. The language in the text is very straightforward and easy to read. As such, it is accessible to a wide variety of readers. We have noted a substantial amount of Indian terminology and slang throughout the text. Bali Rai includes this as another device to assist readers in immersing themselves in the Indian culture and setting of the narrative. Along with the multitude of stories and settings, it brings us closer to understanding the people and the culture. Let us now consider symbology in the text. There is a substantial amount of symbology present in the text. Things such as butterflies, situations with hira, such as mangoes and honey, darshana's pungent odours, Jivan's onions and the foreshadowing that they represent, as well as things such as the temple and the Rowlatt Act and the festival at the end. Let's have a closer look at some of these. The symbol of the butterfly carries with it a number of different meanings. It is representative of resurrection, transition, celebration, lightness, time, and the soul. Interestingly, in many cultures, the butterfly is associated with the soul. This is evident in Asia, South America, and Africa. With relation to the text, we often see the butterflies appear when Hera is around. It is our first indication that she may be something supernatural. Scents play a significant role in building our interpretation of specific characters, as well as assisting us in immersing ourselves in the Indian culture. With Hera, accompanying the appearance of butterflies, there is also the description of scent, which ultimately paints her in a positive light. An example of this is a small butterfly, as blue as the most beautiful summer sky, fluttered about Bison's face. He watched it closely, wondering why it had come to life so early in the year, when his senses were suddenly filled with the scent of mangoes and fresh cream. Someone sat down at his side. In stark contrast, the descriptions that are associated with Darshana aptly portray her in a more grotesque manner. The scents, in many respects, reflect the rotten nature of her character and the disgusting acts that she has committed. Darshana sat up and let the covers fall from her. Even in the darkness, Gulbara could make out her crooked nose and monobrow. The heat that rose from her body carried the stench of onions and dirt. He turned away and tried to close his eyes. Interestingly, Jeevan is described early in the text as carrying around onions in his pockets while trying to learn to juggle. The onions are rotting away in Jeevan's pockets. Taken into context of the other characters already discussed, this can be interpreted as symbolizing Jeevan's latent nature. It acts as a foreshadowing of Jeevan's actions later in the text. That, like Darshana, he is about to commit a truly horrific act that is going to rot away at his soul. Both the Golden Temple in Amritsar and the Rowlatt Act are literal things and a part of Indian history and culture. Symbolically, however, both act as a dichotomy of sorts between those things that symbolize freedom and equality and something that embodies oppression and discrimination. From what we know of the Golden Temple, the design represents being open to all. People from every nation and religion are welcome to visit the temple as a place of equality and peace. We often see Gurdjieff visiting the temple to collect his thoughts. In this place, he is able to come and pray, and this is no different to anyone else of another race, caste, or social status. The Rowlatt Act, on the other hand, is designed to restrict the freedom of the Punjabi people. It embodies the opposite principles and beliefs that one could associate with the Golden Temple. These two things act as a backdrop to the action of the text, and in many ways can be interpreted by readers as a deliberate contrast by Bali Rai, as the difference in feeling between the Indian people and culture and the British colonialists.